All right, let's get right into this. We've got a story about a really bold claim, a little bit of digital detective work, and what happens when trust just completely falls apart in the open source world.
And that question is exactly what's at the heart of this whole thing. It's a conflict that popped up in the Zig programming community, but honestly, it touches on some of the biggest questions in tech right now. Things like authenticity, giving credit, and what it really means to collaborate.
So let's set the scene here. A brand new project shows up, and right out of the gate, it's making some pretty big promises. Now, this claim of being zero AI was a big deal, especially with everyone getting a little tired of all the low-quality AI-generated stuff floating around. But even with some folks in the community raising an eyebrow about its quality, ZigBook went ahead and launched a cool new feature, an online code playground.
Well, that immediately got the attention of the ZigTools team. They're the ones who made a really popular Zig playground that's been around for a while. And when they looked at ZigBook's new tool, they thought, this looks familiar, a little too familiar. Given the project's shaky reputation, they decided it was time to pop the hood and see what was really going on.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting. We're talking about how they found actual, definitive proof. This wasn't just a hunch. They were on the hunt for cold, hard digital evidence. So, the investigators zoomed in on two super specific files. You can think of them like custom-built engine parts for their playground. These are not generic, off-the-shelf components. ZigTools built these from scratch, just for their tool. It's kind of like looking for unique fingerprints left at a crime scene.
And boom, here's the smoking gun. What the investigators did was run a check that creates a unique digital signature for a file, called a checksum. And as you can see right here, the signatures for the files from ZigTools and the ones from ZigBook were a perfect byte-for-byte match. Identical.
For the people investigating, this was it. There was just no way around it. The chance of two different custom-built files having the exact same digital fingerprint is basically zero. This was undeniable proof of a direct copy-paste job.
But they didn't stop there. If the engine was copied, what about the code that actually makes the whole thing run?
So they started digging into the JavaScript, and yep, they found more. Even though some parts were changed a little bit, they found entire sections that were just copied one-to-one. That includes this really specific, kind of weirdly formatted logging message you see here. It's like finding a note with the same unique spelling mistake in two different places. It's just another undeniable link.
So you're probably thinking, case closed, right? They've got all this evidence of copying. It seems like straight-up theft. Well, in the world of open-source software, it's not always that simple. There's a really important twist here.
The answer to that is, well, it's a little more complicated than a simple yes or no. It really all boils down to the license that the original code was shared under.
You see, most of this code is covered by something called the MIT license. It's super popular in open source for one main reason. It lets you do almost anything you want. It literally says you can copy, change, and use the code for pretty much any purpose.
But, and this is the crucial part, there's one big condition. You have to include the original copyright and license notice. So the problem wasn't really the copying itself. It was the fact that they didn't give credit. And that's like rule number one in the open source community. The ZigTools team thought, hey, maybe this was just an honest mistake. So they decided to give ZigBook a chance to fix it, quietly, without making a big public scene about it. They sent over a simple, helpful fix. It's called a pull request that would add the proper license files. But the response? It was immediate. The request was shut down, and the whole description explaining what the problem was just got deleted.
This is the text from that original deleted request. And as you can see, it's totally calm, totally factual. It wasn't accusatory at all. It was just a clear, good faith attempt to say, hey, here's the problem and here's the solution.
By shutting down the fix and trying to erase the conversation, ZigBook basically turned a simple licensing mistake into a deliberate act of bad faith. It was that refusal to just do the right thing that made the ZigTools team decide they had to go public.
So, why should we care about this little drama in one specific programming community? Well, because it's a perfect snapshot of some much bigger issues that we're all dealing with right now.
This isn't just about lines of code. It's a story about how hard it is to maintain quality and trust when AI is everywhere. Think about it. So much of our digital world runs on open source software, and that entire system is built on good faith and mutual respect. When that foundation starts to crack, it really does affect everyone.
So the final verdict from the original creators was crystal clear.
Their warning to other developers wasn't just about a license mistake anymore. It was about a major breach of community trust.
And that really leaves all of us with a much bigger question to chew on. As AI makes it easier and easier to create anything really, text, code, you name it, how do we actually know what's authentic? How can we trust the digital tools we rely on every single day? That's a question we're all going to have to figure out.